Every D-Day documentary starts the same way. Dawn, soldiers on the beach, explosions, the flag goes up. That's the story they decided to tell you. But D-Day didn't start at dawn. It started at 12:15 in the morning, in complete darkness, miles inland, with men who weren't even supposed to survive the night. And what happened in those first 60 minutes changed everything about the invasion, in ways that most history books still get wrong. June 5th. 1944, 11 p.m. The English Channel was rough. The winds were wrong. Eisenhower had already postponed the invasion once because of weather. His meteorologists gave him a narrow window, maybe 36 hours of acceptable conditions. After that, the next opportunity was weeks away. He couldn't wait weeks. So while the world was sleeping, 13,000 American paratroopers, the 82nd and 101st Airborne, climbed into C-47 transport planes at airfields across southern England. These were young men. Most of them were 19, 20, 21 years old. Some had never left their home state before the war. Now they were strapping on 80 pounds of equipment in the dark, about to jump into occupied France. Their job, drop behind enemy lines, secure the roads, hold the causeways, knock out the artillery that could tear apart the beach landings at dawn. Eisenhower himself had been warned by his own commanders that casualty rates could hit 70%. 70%. He walked through the hangars that night and talked to the men, shook hands, asked where they were from, tried to smile. Then he went back to his car and his driver said she heard him quietly weeping. He ordered the drop anyway. What happened next is where the real D-Day story begins, and it's nothing like the movies. Here's the version you've probably seen. Brave paratroopers jump from planes. They land perfectly in their assigned zones. They regroup, fight the Germans, hold the line. Then, at dawn, the beach landings begin and the plan clicks into place. Clean, organized, heroic. That's not what happened. The moment the planes crossed the coast of France, German anti-aircraft fire turned the sky into chaos. The flak was heavier than anyone had predicted. Tracers came up through the clouds. Planes started taking hits. Pilots, young men, most of them flying combat for the first time, had a choice: hold formation and risk getting shot down with a full load of paratroopers, or break and get their men out fast. They broke formation. They sped up. They dove below the cloud cover. They scattered across 25 miles of Norman countryside. The jump signals came early. Men were dropped at the wrong altitude, at the wrong speed, over the wrong fields. Some were released over the English Channel and drowned before they could get their chutes off. Others landed in towns, on rooftops, in trees. Private John Steele of the 82nd Airborne landed on the church steeple in the village of Sainte-Mère-Église, hanging there for 2 hours while a battle raged 70 feet below him. Germans shot at him. He played dead. He survived. Most of his unit wasn't so lucky. Dozens of men drowned in flooded fields the Germans had deliberately swamped, fields that looked like open farmland from the air, but were underwater to a depth of 4 feet. Weighed down by equipment, they had no chance. No one could reach them in the dark. By 1 a.m., most units were completely scattered. A regiment that was supposed to land together was spread across 15 miles. Officers couldn't find their men. Men couldn't find their officers. Sergeants were commanding companies. Privates were making decisions that generals were supposed to make. The 101st Airborne's assistant commander, General Don Pratt, was killed when his glider crash-landed. He was the first American general to die on D-Day. He died before the sun came up. On paper, the entire airborne operation was close to a catastrophic failure. And here's the thing: the movies never explain. The chaos saved the invasion. German commanders monitoring their positions that night saw paratroopers landing in dozens of different locations across a 40-mile stretch of Normandy. They couldn't figure out where the actual attack was coming from. Was it here? Was it there? Was this the real invasion or a diversion? Every German unit that received a report of paratroopers in their sector wanted to know, are these the main force or a decoy? Nobody had an answer. Field Marshal Rommel was in Germany at his wife's birthday party. He'd been planning to return to the front that day anyway, but he wasn't there yet. His request to move panzer divisions closer to the coast had been denied months earlier by Hitler's staff. They believed the real Allied invasion would come at Pas de Calais, the shortest crossing point 200 miles to the northeast. That belief was partly the result of an elaborate Allied deception operation, one of the most successful in military history. The Germans were looking in the wrong direction. When reports of the beach landing started coming in just before dawn, German tank commanders reached for their phones. They needed Hitler's personal authorization to move the armored reserves. Hitler was asleep. His staff refused to wake him. The tank units sat and waited. The scattered paratroopers, disorganized, under strength, fighting in groups of strangers who'd just met, had accidentally created the perfect deception. Thousands of men, dropped in the wrong places, had convinced the entire German high command that they didn't understand what was happening. That confusion cost Germany the beaches. But here's the detail that nobody talks about, and it changes how you see the entire operation. In the first 60 minutes of D-Day, the most important piece of real estate in all of Normandy wasn't on the beach. It was 4 narrow causeways crossing the flooded fields behind Utah Beach. You have to understand the geography. The Germans had flooded the low ground behind Utah Beach on purpose. If the Americans landed and tried to move inland, they'd be funneled onto 4 narrow raised roads, causeways barely wide enough for 2 vehicles. If those causeways were blocked or destroyed, 23,000 men would be trapped between the water and the flood. They'd be sitting targets. Securing those causeways was the single most critical mission of the entire airborne operation. The men assigned to take them, paratroopers of the 101st Airborne, were so scattered that most of them never reached their objectives. The ones who did were small groups. A sergeant with 6 men from 3 different companies, a lieutenant who'd never met any of the soldiers following him. They found each other in the dark, figured out roughly where they were, and started moving toward where the causeways ought to be. They took the causeways anyway, not because the plan worked, because individual men, alone in the dark in a foreign country, decided to keep moving forward. Utah Beach would have the lowest casualty rate of any D-Day landing. 197 men killed and wounded. Compare that to Omaha, just a few miles to the east. Nearly 2,000 dead and wounded in a single morning. Same invasion, same day, same enemy. The difference was those causeways. And those causeways were held by men who had no idea what they were doing, but kept going anyway. Every D-Day story you've seen focuses on the beaches. The images are real. The heroism is real. But the invasion was decided in the dark, by men you've never heard of, in the hour before dawn, in fields that are still flooded today if you go there in spring. Eisenhower knew the paratroop drop might be a disaster. He'd been told by his own air commanders that it could fail completely. He called the decision to proceed the most difficult moment of his life. What he didn't know, what nobody knew until years later, was that the disaster was exactly what the invasion needed. The wrong drops, the scattered units, the chaos and confusion, all of it, accidentally, perfectly, delayed the one response that could have pushed the Allies back into the sea. The German commander at Omaha Beach that morning was General Kreis. He had 1 Panzer division within striking distance of the beach, close enough to reach Omaha within 2 hours of the landings. He never used it. He was waiting for orders that were stuck somewhere in a command structure that had been awake all night, trying to understand what was happening in Normandy, the reason why, and what happened when he finally tried to move that division, is a story that almost nobody knows, and it starts with a decision made not by a general, but by a corporal from Indiana who found himself alone on a road in France at 3 in the morning.
Welcome everybody to my channel. I'm a creator of these videos, and I'm spending a lot of time to edit these videos, from 5 to 10 hours. I hope you liked. If you like it, please press the like, leave the comment, and share it. It will help me to grow faster. Thank you very much again. See you in the next videos.